Yes, I can. Welcome aboard. And Jumbo, fellow Coaching Network members, this is our grand finale of the network. I'm sure you've heard the news. We are migrating over to the Infinite Possibilities membership. Links will appear in the chat if you want to keep some energy going. Every Tuesday morning, we meet for a mini manifesting workshop. For those who are currently coaching members, you will get a prorated refund if you paid annually by March 7th. And then you'll have access to all the prior coaching shows until approximately March 20th. And then those two will be migrated over to your dashboard at tut.com for Infinite Possibility members. So this is the third Thursday of the month. And what we do is a show called Mike Dooley in the World. And I always bring on an esteemed guest. Our esteemed guest, as you can see, is none other than Pam Grout. Oh my gosh. Our show is titled Manifesting Opportunities and Performing Miracles. She's the lady. Pam Grout is the author of 20 books, including E Squared, her #1 New York Times blockbuster. She's also authored 2 screenplays, a live soap opera, a TV series, 2 iPhone apps. She's a world traveler. Her articles have appeared in numerous publications, including People, Travel and Leisure, Family Circle, Modern Maturity, The Washington Post, the Detroit Free Press. She is one of the happiest, coolest, hippest people I have ever gotten to call friend. We hosted her at Solapalooza, a live event we used to do annually prior to COVID, and she brought down the house. Jack Canfield says that Pam combines a writing style as funny as Ellen DeGeneres with a wisdom as deep and profound as Deepak Chopra. And I would like to echo those sentiments. She's really one of a kind. Welcome to the show, Pam Grout.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, you're looking absolutely marvelous. I wonder if it was your recent trip to South Africa.
Well, it's funny. I happen to have my Africa hat here, and I noticed you had yours on. And I mentioned that I brought my guy home the exact same hat as the one you have on. In fact, I should go grab his hat, and then we could be twins. But anyway, yes, I recently got back from South Africa. And I know you went too in November. Was that when you were there?
I think about November, approximately.
Okay,
they
yeah.
all blur together, and it is truly, I think, one of my favorite places on earth. Cape Town in particular, just the scenery, the people, the locals, the tourists. Maybe it's that vacation mode, but I had the best time. I don't ever take off my hoodie here. It just reminds me so much of that kind of euphoric feeling I felt for almost a couple of weeks. I've been there other times as well. It's always the same. Highly recommend Cape Town and all of South Africa. Beautiful place, beautiful people.
Yes. I was there for 3 weeks in January, and I just heard a story that might kind of explain why both of us feel so at home there. Did you ever see the movie Octopus Teacher? My Octopus Teacher?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that guy was Craig Foster. And of course, he did that in this little bay that, of course, we were near in Cape Town. And he said that whenever anybody comes to visit him in Cape Town, he always says, "Welcome home." Because this is where all of humanity, the sand people, where all of humanity sprang from. So, it makes sense that we would feel at home there. And you just feel the vibe. It's just so amazing. I met this wonderful Buddhist nun there. And well, she actually had given up her vow. She's a former Buddhist nun. But anyway, she said that she and her daughter were in Mumbai, and her daughter was a sommelier. And of course, Mumbai, India, not the best wine. So one day she said, we should just move to a region that has really great wine. And within 2 months, they were living in Cape Town. And she said that she will never go back. She will never leave. She loves it. She's originally an American. I mean, she's from America, from Texas originally. And used to, was a Buddhist nun for a long time, and then worked at a Unity church near me. So anyway, it was really fun to hook up with her, but you never know who you're going to run into in South Africa.
No, and it's funny that you say the going home thing. I have always felt like that about Africa. Um, my favorite continent. Well, I haven't been everywhere, but Kenya several times, Egypt, Morocco briefly. And then, of course, there's Namibia if you're in the northern part of South Africa, Tanzania. Oh my gosh, it really impacts me so powerfully every time I go. And you're quite the world traveler. Like that's your thing. If you're not writing, I think, are you traveling?
Not always. I did travel writing for so long that took me everywhere, and that was really great. I'm not doing active travel writing as much, but I still love to travel. So yeah, like last year, I think I only went to 4 countries, but I travel a lot, even just around the United States. It's just fun to go somewhere else because I don't know, you get out of your ruts. And I mean, in some ways, spiritual practice is all about getting out of those ruts, those rules, those things we were taught by our culture. So I feel like when you travel, it's easier to get out of them. So maybe that's why I like to travel. Like you said, it's kind of vacation mode. But for me, when I was always traveling, I was actually working. Although if you call working, going to the best places, eating at the best restaurants, but nonetheless working, because I did have to then write a report about it or write a travel story about it. So,
I wanted to reiterate the movie you referenced because it's one of my all-time favorites. You're going to cry so hard when you watch this movie, but what a testament to the miracle of life and the brilliance of nature. The movie is called My Octopus Teacher. It's easy to get and stream online, probably every platform. I could not more highly recommend such a movie to open your heart and your mind to the brilliance and beauty and intelligence and love that pervades this adventure. And you are quite the adventurer as far as metaphysics goes. I did have a question I wanted to personally ask you. What are your 3 favorite cities on planet Earth?
Well, you already mentioned one of them. Cape Town is just so beautiful. Usually when people ask that question, I hesitate to answer because I always say wherever I happen to be. But Cape Town, there's something about it. It's just magical. And I recommend everyone go there. I mean, it's just truly beautiful scenery, beautiful people. It's very affordable. I mean, everything you'd want in a town, it's got. So I love Cape Town. I love Sydney, Australia, too. I lived there for a year. So, of course, I'm quite fond of Sydney. So this is interesting. Usually I get asked about country, so I like the city question. I also really love Salzburg, Austria. That was always a favorite of mine as well. But I don't know. I love every place I go. And I think, when you're in the right mindset, every place is paradise, really. So a lot of it has to do with who you're traveling with. And it really has to do with where your mind is. Are you happy inside? I'm here in below zero temperatures right now. And I have been just so happy. And it's kind of like, how did this happen? I mean, the conditions aren't exactly right for what people might think is paradise, but I've just been enjoying myself immensely.
Well, those are great advices. I'm happy to say I've been to all 3. And they might be among my top choices as well. So now let's talk about manifesting opportunities, performing miracles. Maybe let's begin with your book, E Squared, which I'll never forget when that exploded around the world, a #1 New York Times bestseller, and 9 experiments to prove to yourself that you're already doing this stuff. Can you tell us about the origins of that book, how you got into metaphysics, any tidbits that would...
I was lucky. I was born into a preacher's family, so kind of more of a traditional religious home. And while there were a lot of things that I've outgrown from that, I did learn from the very beginning that miracles were possible. I mean, this guy named Jesus, he was walking on water and turning water into wine. So, and not only that, but in my own life and in the life of the people in my dad's congregation, I mean, the most amazing things were happening. So I grew up speaking the language of miracles. I mean, that was honestly the way life worked. I mean, that's what we look for. That was the truth of the world in the world I grew up in. Now, like I said, I did outgrow that, but I think because I always was recognizing this idea that not many things, all things are possible. I mean, it says that right in the Bible. I sort of was a perfect fit for the metaphysical path. And, once I went off to college, I got away from, the traditional religions kind of path that I was on. And I got more into metaphysics, got into Course in Miracles pretty early on. I had gone out to Esalen to do a work study out there for about a month. And the subject of my particular work study happened to be Course in Miracles. So I've been involved in that for a long time. And anything that has to do with possibility, I'm in. You mentioned that word and I'm in. So I've studied a lot. That's what I love to talk about. That's what I love to write about. That's what to me, it's the only conversation worth having, which is why I always love, getting on a phone call with you or meeting up with you in any opportunity I get. So, yeah.
I can totally relate to all of that. It's like, what could be more exciting than this adventure into the sacred jungles of time and space where all things are possible? And we are the conductor of everything that happens. So you mentioned A Course in Miracles. I would imagine many on the call watching the broadcast are familiar with that book. It is legendary. Bizarrely, I've never gotten into that book. My mom was into the woo-woo. I got into the Seth material. That became my Bible, dictated by the late Jane Roberts. Just briefly, tell us, what is A Course in Miracles?
Well, the Course in Miracles is also a channeled work, just like Jane Roberts. And I'm a big fan of Jane Roberts, too. I mean, I'm one of these, you name a spiritual thing, I probably tried it. I probably sampled it. I love all that stuff. But Course in Miracles, it is really a dense, hard book to read. In fact, I've often said, you go to any spiritual gathering and who has Course in Miracles? Everybody raises their hand. But then you go, who has actually read it? And, maybe two people, because it really isn't an easy thing to do. In fact, the whole reason that I did that book, the Course in Miracles Experiment, which is, basically the workbook.
That's one of Pam's books, her most recent, possibly, A Course in Miracles, led by Pam Grout.
Right. Is that I was kind of trying to interpret it into terms that were a little bit more understandable. And I was just every day blogging about it because I love to blog. I still blog all the time. So anyway, people start saying, you should turn this into a book. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a good idea. Maybe I should do that. And I set it off to Hale. So that's why it turned into a book. But I think it's such an important piece of work, but not the words, not the book, but the actual concepts in it, is that most of what we see is exactly opposite of the way the world really is. We're taught in this culture to believe in limitations, to believe that things are scarce. And that's not the truth of the world. The world is very abundant. It is unlimited. There is nothing that can stop us from anything, but that's not what we're taught. So the Course in Miracles is all about rewriting those messages. And I think the biggest message we have to rewrite is the fact that there is this force that loves us. I mean, we've kind of been taught this idea of God. I mean, that's one of the things I love about that E-Squared book, which basically came from Course in Miracles. It was stuff I'd learned there. But I had all these myths about God. And as long as you have any fear at all about God or this infinite thing, whatever it is, if you have any fear or believe it's judging you or believe that you have anything to be guilty at, any teeny tiny little bit, then you can't fully surrender to the magic and the miracles that are wanting to come to us at all times, this divine broadcast that's always happening. So we have to get over our fear of that. And I guess in some ways, that's what E-Squared did. You don't have to believe anything. Just give us a try. See if there is this force that likes you. Just give it a try. Give it, 48 hours, not asking a lot, just, real simple. And I think the reason it took off is because people had such astounding results and they started posting it online. And this is about the time, social media became big. So everybody's like talking about it. And then everybody started reading it and loved it. And, the rest is history. So anyway,
wow.
Yeah.
So before we talk about some experiments and what you might suggest to us, you were a travel writer. Mm-hmm. And you kind of segued into metaphysics and being an author of renown. What was clearly you must have used what you've learned to kind of make that transition to blaze a trail, to be a new thought leader. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you harnessed metaphysics to be the super cool, happy love thing that you now are?
Well, even getting into travel writing, I use metaphysical principles. I decided that I wanted to travel. I grew up traveling in a little station wagon with my father, and I loved it. And I knew I wanted to travel. I didn't know how to make that happen. Again, I grew up without a silver spoon in my mouth. So I didn't know how I was going to travel. I just knew I wanted to travel. So you put an intention out there like that, and you don't put up any blocks. You don't say, I don't know how to do it. I just know I want to do it. That's all you need to do. And then all these opportunities began falling in my lap, starting with being a travel writer. In fact, it's funny how I ended up in travel writing. I had sent a query letter to Ladies Home Journal. And in there, I mentioned that I had just been to, that I picked coffee in Nicaragua, which I had done, and that I had just been to Jamaica, living in a villa, about villa living. And then I just talked about, it was a bad query letter. She didn't want that story, but she called me up and she said, do you do travel writing? And I said, yes, not because I even knew what travel writing was exactly. I had written these 2 articles about, picking coffee in Nicaragua and about being in Jamaica, but I didn't know what travel writing was. But of course you say yes to an editor. So I said, yes. And she says, where are you going next? And I wasn't going anywhere, but this guy I was kind of dating, he was heading to Tampa with his family. So I said, Tampa. She says, okay, I need 500 words. And she gave me a deadline. So I called this guy, was kind of dating. I said, hey, would you care if I went to Tampa with you? And so I went and I did a story about Tampa for Ladies Home Journal. And then I discovered that there's this whole field of travel writing. And then I started getting all these amazing invitations. And in fact, all these places that I've been, a lot of them are, that I went as a travel writer. So literally on someone else's dime. So, even though I didn't have the resources myself at the time, I just knew I wanted to travel. And the universe said, okay, here's how you do it. And that is such an important key, as you teach all the time. We don't have to know how. And that's one of the things the culture teaches us. You have to know how. You have to have this list of how to get these things done. That doesn't work. That only blocks it. That only says, I don't have it now. You just have to really want it and know that whatever you don't put up blocks to is yours. I mean, that's how it works. We are all full-time creators constantly. We have everything we could ever want, except for the things we put up blocks to. And our culture teaches us to put up blocks. And so we put up blocks to everything, that it has to be hard. We have to struggle. We have to make it. We have to, do these things before this can happen. Like traveling. Oh, you have to work at a job really hard. Then you get your 2 weeks vacations and then you can travel. But that's not how it worked for me. I got a job where I traveled all the time. So anyway, yeah.
That's inspiring. And my gosh, we have so much in common. I've always known that. And that's half the fun for hanging out with you. So then you wrote this, you were writing nonstop articles and apps and everything, but the E Squared book, when you set out to write that, given that it became such a humongous global seller, did you have a routine? Like, did you do creative visualization before you wrote? Did you see the end result, or were you just writing because it was fun?
Because it was fun. And I've never done a real formal type practice. I know that's not what people in our line of work are supposed to say, but I feel like everything, if I do teach, I don't even consider myself a teacher per se, but I feel like I live by example. And if people want to, do what I do, which is basically nothing, then feel free. Again, my practice really is erasing blocks, and that's what Course in Miracles is about, getting rid of all the stuff that's in our way. Because the world is abundant, the world is good, the world is beautiful, but we have a lot of stuff in the way. So our best practice is to get out of the way, get those beliefs out of the way. I mean, that's it. That's my only practice.
Yeah,
and I meditate. I do write in my journal. I do things, but I feel called to do them, or they feel like the natural thing to do, I guess. So
relying on your heart operating system, intuition, impulses, be led by your heart, be led by joy. I teach people all, as you know, all the time, nobody has to learn how to make their thoughts become things. It's like you're turned on all the time. And so
Yes.
getting out of your own way is exactly spot on. Can you give us some tips on how to get out of our own way? Like, is it affirmations? Is it installing new beliefs? Is it finding the old ones? Tell us how to get out of our own
Well,
way.
I've done all of that. I've done affirmations. I've done visualization to a certain degree. Mostly, I guess my visualization would be in my notebooks. I would write a lot in my notebooks about things I wanted, things I, but anymore, I don't even know if there's things I want. I just trust so much in this divine goodness that things just fall into my lap. I mean, I don't have to go seeking them. In fact, I think this idea that seeking, I heard a quote, I wrote this down, and it said, what's the one? Seek and you shall find. Seek and you will not find, or something like that. Oh, what was it? I don't remember exactly. But the whole point is, if you seek, you don't think you have it. You don't recognize that you have it.
Absolutely.
So it's really about recognizing what you have, knowing you have enough, being thankful for all you have, and being thankful that this universe loves you and wants to bless you and bestow gifts and guide you and all the stuff. It's right there if you get out of your way. It's that simple, is getting out of your way.
Well, that's solid gold. This is like an ascended master's course. Yes, seeking presupposes distance. And like Richard Bach said, the way to travel, teleport, or in any other way is to begin by realizing you're already there. Gratitude, gratefulness. If you seek, you push it farther away. So just echoing the master here, this is really, really good. I would like more traction on removing your blocks. Like, what happens when you're like, there's a block. How do I remove it?
Well, I can tell you two things. In Course in Miracles, like when you notice a block, you'll just say, Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. You just want to see it differently. We want to see the world differently. So Course in Miracles terms are Holy Spirit, but you can call it what do you call it? The field of infinite potential, whatever, the universe. Yes, the universe. Help me see it differently. That's all. The other thing is gratitude. The more we can be grateful, the more we see the world as it really is. Gratitude seems like such a little mamby-pamby, poo-poo, Oprah type thing, but it is everything. If you live in gratitude, you recognize that you already have everything. And so living in gratitude, that's just a real simple way to do it. Live in gratitude for everything. And everything means everything. We sometimes judge things as, that's bad. Well, that's not living in gratitude. And any judgment. See, that's the other thing, Course in Miracles. We can't judge. We don't have enough information to judge on our own. Our little minds don't have enough. Our little minds are driven by all the cultural programming, all the scarcity, limitation concepts that we are taught. So living in this other reality is erasing those concepts that, we're taught from the moment we're born. The moment we're born, they weigh us and measure us and compare us to the other babies in the nursery. It starts immediately, and our parents think it's their job to keep us safe, but all they're doing is teaching us limitations. And nothing against parents. We all do that, but there is this bigger story that we can hook into, this other bigger field. And that's all I want, is to hook into that bigger field.
So right now we live in quite a polarized world, politically speaking, and in racially speaking, and gender speaking, and judgment is indoctrinated in all of us. Maybe you've already answered this question just now, but any advice for navigating these wild and crazy times when people have been separated like wheat from the chaff?
This is such a wake-up call for all of us to really, really live in the now, in the gratitude, to live in the future. Nobody can live in the future and not feel terrified, so you have to kind of live in the now and really live in gratitude. And I feel like for those of us that are on this path, it is really our time to step up and to keep shining the light so strong. We need people that are calm. We need people that are peaceful. We need people that recognize something bigger is going on. And I feel like the more we amplify the message of goodness, of beauty, of truth, the more we can calm our nervous systems down and allow all that to come through. And I think the news media is trying to amplify the other side, trying to make us be afraid. And so then we shut down this great thing that wants to come through all of us. So it is so important to, I guess, regulate our nervous systems and stay calm, stay in the moment, stay peaceful. Whatever thing you fear is happening, I always ask, is it happening now? I mean, right now in this moment, I am sitting here. Oh my gosh, my computer's about to die. Can you hang on for just 1 second?
Yes.
Or here, let me just, let's see, what do I need to do here? I need to move into where my, but yeah, so that's what we need to do. I don't want my computer to die. Here we go. Okay, all right, here we are. All right, sorry about that.
That's okay. You plugged in?
Oh, yes, I'm plugged back in. Okay. Sorry. To be continued.
Okay, that was a fun little journey. Good job.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we need to be the peace and be the joy and be in the present moment. Probably watch less news and be grateful. I think we're all being tested, no matter what political affiliations, to realize that they don't have any power over us. No matter, again, if you're thinking that this new wave is what the world most needs, you still have to find your joy and your peace and your happiness now. And your favorite political leaders now in power are not going to be able to deliver on that. And if you're on the other side of the fence and you're wringing your hands with every new headline, it's like they have no say over the joy and gratitude you can find in the present moment. And this is the task at hand. And yes, if we step forward, I totally agree. Not only can we prove this for ourselves, but we can raise the vibe and help others simultaneously.
Right. Yeah. I was a big protester back in the day. I loved a good protest, because people get all fired up, and I enjoyed that. It was fun. And so there's a part of me that thinks, I should be out doing something like that. But I feel like the most important thing I can do is truly, like I said, regulate my own nervous system. So when I am called on, when there is something I need to do, I'm ready to do it. I'm not all in, woe is me and this is so scary or whatever. So I'm working really hard. I mean, that's like my full-time job these days is, being happy and really appreciating the now. Like one of the things I've been doing, this has been so exciting. There are all these bald eagles by this river real close to my home. So every day I bundle up because it's cold here, and I bundle up and I go out and I look at those beautiful bald eagles. And it's just like, they're not worrying about, what's happening. They're not thinking about, the future. They're just literally doing what eagles do, eagle ballet over the river. And it's just so magical and beautiful. And I'm just looking for all those moments of magic and beauty, and they're everywhere. They are everywhere. And that's my mission, to just continue looking for that. And a lot of people say, come, fight this with me or fight that with me. Resistance is never, ever, ever going to solve anything. Resistance is what we need to move away from. So anyway, that's my task. And I feel like what I'm doing is important. I'm not sticking my head in the sand. I'm doing what I feel is really important, what I feel called to do.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about manifesting miracles. And maybe, do you have a favorite challenge or exercise for, let's just say everyone's new to this, where they can perhaps rather quickly begin witnessing the miraculous in their life?
Well, baby steps. Start with real simple things, like just pick something that you would like to see more of in the next 48 hours. Let's just say that. Just something, anything. It can be an emotion, it can be a thing. I mean, sometimes physical things are the easiest to see. So, like one of the experiments in E squared is look for butterflies or white feathers or whatever it might be. So you could do something like that. So that's a real simple thing to just show that you think about that and then you start noticing that. It's just a way of showing yourself that it's all there and that all you need to do is make that intention and be aware of it. I also think it's really important to start with gratitude every day, writing down something you're grateful for, and it has to be different every day, like every day you're finding new things to be grateful for, new pieces of beauty, and share them with other people. I've talked about this many times, my possibility posses, and every day we check in and report something beautiful we saw that has to be different than we've ever reported before. So I've been doing this for 12 years. So, it's like every day I'm responsible for finding that new thing to be so grateful for with my little
Possibilities posse.
I have 3 different what I call possibility posses, and it's just friends basically. I'm in the small scheme, I'm into the local small scheme. But anyway, yes, and that's what I call as my possibility posses. Just because
I think for me it's my brother and sister. We have a WhatsApp group and we share something, often an inspiration, an epiphany every day. But I'm gonna add gratitude to that immediately, and something different every morning. I'm gonna challenge them to do that as well. So a suggestion from you is to pick something simple, like a white butterfly, or a hummingbird, or a red rose, or whatever brings a smile to your face.
Mm-hmm.
And in the next 48 hours, pay attention. So I'm going to say, everyone here now, watching live or recorded, think of what that one thing is for you. It could be a balloon. Any other ideas, Pam?
I think something will have sprung to everybody's mind by now. Something will have come to their mind. And whatever it is, just say, okay, universe, show me these in 48 hours. It's kind of like that. Remember the little scavenger hunt thing we did when we did our little whatever? It's sort of like that. Every day we'd give people a different thing to manifest. And it was amazing. The stories on there are pretty fun, like where people would find things. And again, that's kind of like one of the experiments in my book. So I have so many stories where people have written in where, oh my gosh, I was in the cold of Canada, it was below whatever, and I saw yellow butterflies. So, it's kind of amazing what's out there when you start looking. And that's basically what we're doing, is we're just opening our eyes. We're pointing our viewfinder to a different thing. We're not looking at the news. We're not looking at, oh no, what could happen? We are looking for something simple, something beautiful in our own lives. And we find, and the more you look at it, of course, the more you see it. So.
Do you have a favorite manifesting story, a simple story, either of your own or one of your readers or audience members?
Well, I love, and I shared this one in E squared, but for me, I wanted to go to Australia, or actually this guy that I had a crush on was going to Australia. He was going to be a chiropractor. This is long ago. And, I was just a budding freelance writer at that point. Australia, that's way far away. And I didn't have the money to buy a ticket to get there. But like within a couple weeks of when I made that intention, I get this call from my editor at Modern Bride magazine, which no longer exists. Which says, we would like you to do a story on Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific. I'm like, oh, okay. So, I literally got this assignment to go over there. It didn't work out with the chiropractor that I had the crush on. But nonetheless, I got to go to Australia and, on someone else's dime. So I have lots of those kind of stories. But the stories I get from people, like literally every week I get stories, as I'm sure you do too, where people send me, because I think I said something in one of the chapters in E squared. If you happen to have a synchronicity story, send it to me. And I think I might have put my email in there or something, which kind of might have been a mistake because sometimes I can't even field all the emails. But they always start with something like, you are never going to believe this. I mean, I have heard so many, you are never going to believe this story. So, I mean, to me, that's just the way of the world. In E Cubed, the follow-up book, I had a chapter called, well, duh. This is the way it works, people. It's just a matter of getting out of our own way.
It is. I got a quick travel story. I think it's my favorite one. I shared in Infinite Possibilities. But after college, I was unemployed. I didn't have a job. I struck out with all the big 8 accounting firms. So I put together a scrapbook, which is like a vision board, and I put pictures in it of what my life will be like. And I looked at them as if it was like that. And of course, I had travel destinations in there because I'm an equal travel fanatic, although at the time I had not done much. And within a couple of months, I was hired by Price Waterhouse. One of the pictures I had in the book was of Hong Kong Island, and I had Paris, Tokyo. Price Waterhouse ended up sending me to Saudi Arabia for 2 years, and I went to every city and country that I had ever dreamed of going on someone else's dime. It was just my home leave from Riyadh. I got to take an around the world ticket, and I went to Kathmandu, Singapore, Bangkok, Sydney, Auckland on my way home, all costs paid. And my heart nearly skipped a beat one morning having breakfast in the Regent Hotel in Kowloon, Hong Kong, when I looked up over my coffee through the 2-story plate glass windows surrounding me. And there was the exact same view of Hong Kong Island that I had put in my scrapbook. By that time, it was 2 years earlier. And I had thought, well, when I'm old like my uncle and I'm in my 50s or 60s, at the time I was like 22.
Right.
Maybe when I'm old, I'll get to go to places that even he didn't go to. And, within 2 years, I'm having breakfast at the Regent Hotel in Kowloon, Hong Kong. I stayed at a cheap hotel down the road, but I went to the nice hotels for breakfast and for concierge services.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I remember there was no cell phones back then, but I was like, I got to tell mom. I got to tell my woo-woo mom. This is unbelievable. This shit works. Holy God. I mean, I could not believe it. And I've not stopped traveling in all of these decades since, as well as use the law of attraction, thoughts becoming things for everything I've ever wanted. And it's all there in spades. And here's something. I've always been, if I will use the phrase from Richard Bach, a divinely selfish soul. It's like, man, I want my stuff. I want my things. I want to go. I am not putting the needs of others before my own. And I highly recommend that. You've got to find your joy and follow your heart and do it your way. Find your power. See the miracles that abound. And then I have gone full circle to where, cups are overflowing in every area of my life. What I most want now is to help other people and be of service. It's like, talk about a rush to change the trajectory of somebody else's life. Have you seen, I'm feeding this to you and be honest, but have you seen, maybe you were always altruistic, but
I've always believed
that come around?
Yeah, I've always believed that when you're following your own passion, you're inspiring others to follow their passion. So in some ways, I feel like I'd always done that. I've never been a very material person. That isn't what turned me on. Traveling turned me on. Exciting conversations turned me on. Interesting people turned me on. But I've just never been into things. And it's been kind of funny because this book, that's a lot of people when they think of manifesting, they think about the new car. That stuff's like easy. It's like Peace Pilgrim said, yeah, manifesting things, that's easy. Like I needed a new car a year or two ago. And so one showed up in my driveway. That's how it works for me. But I'm not into that. But I am into a lot of changing the consciousness of the world. And I've always kind of been into that. And I feel like the best way to change the consciousness of the world is not through politics. It's not through the traditional way. It's sharing these kind of stories, because every time you share your story about, how all these things happen and looking out that window, that inspires someone else to know that could be possible for me. And that's really what we're doing. We are living this paradise life so others can realize it can happen for them. Because if it can happen for me, a kid from Kansas, it can happen to anybody. I mean, really, I couldn't have come from a less, likely life to be, going to every continent on the planet and doing all the stuff. That wouldn't have what you would have seen in this, kid born in Kentucky and living in Kansas, So
Yeah. Same here. I mean, I'm a certified public accountant. Debits and credits were my thing. Now I write notes from the universe for a living.
I love that.
Are you joking? I've traveled everywhere I ever dreamed of. And I will say, not ashamedly, that I have been driven financially because I saw that and I was messing with the house. I saw that as a ticket. And even though I could have had a more direct route, we can meddle with the house to some degree and still have amazing success. It's like the game is rigged. There's so much wiggle room. You're going to get it. You're going to be there and you'll learn these lessons and be in a place where all of a sudden you are the giver, either through example and or literally supporting orphanages and drug addiction centers. My wife and I do that and much, much more. It is such a bountiful world. You don't have to do it Pam's way. You don't have to do it my way. We would recommend you follow your heart to whatever degree possible. Get out of your own way. We've got just a couple of minutes left. What are some final thoughts or suggestions or bits of wisdom that you can impart, Pam?
Well, what just came up for me, I was in South Africa for 3 weeks. And of course, we did do the safari. My friend never been to Africa went with me. But one of the best parts of it, we lived 10 days in the townships in a section of town that, you wouldn't. And it was the most wonderful. We were doing this camp, the 222 Foundation, that I started in honor of my daughter. We were funding these Ubuntu camps and we had like 100 beautiful children. And we lived with this family like I said, in the townships.
Wow.
And it was just an amazing experience. So you never know where your adventure can come from. I mean, that wouldn't be on anybody's bucket. Oh, I want to go live in a township somewhere.
The townships, so everybody knows, are really quite sobering, very poor.
Yeah.
Very poor.
And it was just amazing.
I've seen the pictures on your website. They are heartwarming. Those little girls. Oh my God. There's God. That's witnessing the miraculous.
To be able to see that. And those are people that are like, and this is where the sand people were too, the original humans. And so the prototypical human, I mean, we're connected to God. We're connected to nature. We're connected to all that. And that's where I think we're heading back to, So anyway, last word of wisdom. I don't know. I just, love your life. Be grateful.
That's beautiful. What are you doing now? How can people follow you? What's next?
Well, I've got a book in the works, but rather it's working me more than I'm working it. And so that, stay tuned for that. My blog's free. I'm all about the gift economy. People can come to my website. I write these blogs. It's totally free. There's nothing to join, nothing to pay. It's just, me giving my gifts to the world. I mean, that's like what you said, once your cup's overflowing. I mean, I've always wanted to give my gifts. That's what writing is, right? I want to write. I want to do what I love to do. And if somebody else happens to like it, that's great, But
and what's your website? PamGrout.com?
It's PamGrout.com. If you know my name, Pam Grout, you can find me, my website. I think I'm on Facebook and Instagram.
And Pam has this incredible foundation, Taz, T-A-Z, Grout 222 Foundation.
Right.
Tell us briefly about that.
We're working very hard to change the consciousness of the world. Now, I want to rephrase that. We don't work hard. We are playing to change the consciousness of the world. Everything we do is about changing the consciousness of the world. We don't reward projects that are fighting something that are, it's things that are doing things to recognize this truth about the world that we are provided for. It's not limited. Everyone longs to be creative. So we have very definite guidelines. And I started this after my daughter passed. And Mike and you guys all have contributed to it. And I thank you so much for that. And it's just been a real blessing in my life to do these projects. And now not only am I funding them, I'm also going to hang out with the people too. So that's been really great.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. What a legacy for your daughter.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay. Now, Any final words? Because I think we'll wrap this up. It's been great to bask in your glow, Pam. You really are living it, and you always have. And what a great way to teach.
Well, I sometimes feel like I talk too much. I just babble on, but I just love being in your presence. And thank you for thinking of me. And thank you, everybody in Mike's community. And I love you all, and I love everybody. And let's just go love. The subject today, as Heffy says, the subject today is love. It's the same subject tomorrow and every day after that. So there you go.
Love will take you all the way, the council said, to self-realization, to manifestations, to miracles. Love will take you all the way. So we'll sign off, Pam. Okay. Much love to all who were able to attend live this final gathering for the Mike Dooley Coaching Network. There's probably links below, or go to tut.com for the Infinite Possibilities membership if you care to stay in the zone. Every single Tuesday, a live broadcast. Check out pamgrout.com. Check out Tazgrout 222 Foundation. Thank you, everybody. Your thoughts become things, and you are adored. Bye, Pam.